Okonkwo family. The man say he go give us safe families and strong future. Abeg.
This family was 3 months away from becoming the most powerful in the state. Their campaign slogan: Safe families, strong future. They had the mansion, the perfect image, the money, and the votes. But their housemaid was about to discover something that would change everything. She just didn't know it yet. Meet the Okonkwo family. Mr. Charles Okonkwo was running for governor, leading in every poll. A self-made businessman turned politician, he promised to crack down on crime and protect children. His wife, Patricia, ran a charity foundation for orphan girls, always in the newspapers for her humanitarian work. Their 2 teenage children, David and Blessing, smiled from every campaign poster. To the outside world, they were perfect. The kind of family you'd want leading your state. It was a busy Tuesday when Patricia decided they needed a new housemaid. The campaign was consuming all their time, and they needed help around the house. They posted an ad, and applications flooded in. Among them was a woman named Amina. She arrived at the gate wearing a faded wrapper and old slippers, speaking softly, explaining she desperately needed the work to support her sick mother. Patricia barely looked up during the interview, asked 3 quick questions, and hired her on the spot. They needed someone quickly, someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Amina moved into the boys' quarters that evening. A small room behind the main house, barely furnished with just a thin mattress and a tiny bathroom. As she unpacked her few belongings, she noticed something odd. Deep scratch marks on the walls, like someone had clawed at them desperately. She ran her fingers over the grooves, disturbed but saying nothing. In the bathroom, behind the toilet, she found a small earring, dusty and forgotten. She slipped it into her pocket, a strange feeling settling in her stomach. Her first few days were ordinary enough. Wake at 4:30, sweep the compound, prepare breakfast, serve the family, clean, cook, wash, repeat. The Okonkwos barely acknowledged her existence. They walked past her like she was furniture, only speaking to give orders or complaints. But Amina wasn't just any maid. She was observing everything, her trained journalist eyes noticing details others would miss. David, the 17-year-old son, had friends who visited late at night. They'd arrive nervous, glancing over their shoulders, and disappear into his room. Loud music would play, then sudden silence. One night, while cleaning the hallway, David's door burst open unexpectedly. A thick, sweet chemical smell wafted out before he slammed it shut, glaring at her. "You didn't see anything, understand?" Amina nodded quickly and hurried away, her heart pounding. Charles was always at campaign events, giving passionate speeches. Amina watched him on TV one evening while preparing dinner. "I will be tough on drugs," he declared, fist raised. "We will clean our streets of dealers and protect our children from these predators." The audience erupted in applause. Amina glanced toward David's room upstairs, that strange smell still fresh in her memory, and a cold realization began forming. But something else was wrong in this house, something that made her skin crawl. She noticed how Charles looked at his 15-year-old daughter Blessing. How his hand would rest on her shoulder just a bit too long. How he insisted on saying goodnight to her alone, behind closed doors. Blessing had changed over the weeks Amina had been there. The girl barely ate, jumped at sudden sounds, and had dark circles under her eyes. One night, Amina was walking past Blessing's room when she heard crying. Soft, heartbroken sobbing. She pressed her ear to the door. "Please, Daddy, not tonight. Please." A man's voice, low and firm. "Shoo. This is normal. Don't you love your father?" More crying. Amina's blood ran cold. She stood frozen in the dark hallway, her hands trembling, unsure what to do. The next morning, she tried to talk to Blessing. "Are you okay? If something's wrong, you can tell me." Blessing stared at her with hollow eyes for a long moment, then leaned in close and whispered, "The last maid asked too many questions. Now she's gone. If you're smart, you'll keep your mouth shut. Then she walked away, leaving Amina terrified and confused. What happened to the last maid? Amina started asking subtle questions to the gardener and the security guard. How long has the previous maid been gone? The gardener shrugged. About 4 months. Nice girl, Chioma. One day she was here, next day the family said she went back to her village. Didn't even say goodbye, which was strange. She told me she was saving money to go to university. The security guard added, I thought it was odd too. She left all her belongings behind. Her Bible, her clothes, everything. That night, Amina couldn't sleep. She thought about the scratch marks on her wall, the forgotten earring, blessings warning. She got up and searched her small room more carefully. Under the mattress, she found something that made her stomach drop. Scratched into the wooden bed frame, barely visible, were words, if something happens to me, look in the garage. Tell my family in Enugu. Chioma. Amina's heart raced. She waited until 3 in the morning, when the house was silent, and crept out to the garage. Behind old paint cans and stacked boxes, she found plastic bags hidden in a corner. Inside were bottles and bottles of pills. Ecstasy. Cocaine in small packets. Prescription medications with different people's names. This wasn't personal use. This was distribution. David was dealing drugs from his father's mansion while his father campaigned against drug dealers. She photographed everything with a small camera hidden in her phone, her hands shaking. But she knew this wasn't enough. Something worse was happening here. She could feel it. Patricia's charity became Amina's next focus. The foundation supposedly helped orphan girls, but something felt off. Twice, Amina had seen Patricia bring young girls to the house in the evening, claiming they were interviewing for the program. But these girls never stayed for dinner. They never appeared at breakfast. Patricia would take them somewhere in the house, and by morning, they were gone. Where did they go? One night, Amina pretended to be asleep but watched from her window. At 2 in the morning, she saw Charles and Patricia loading something wrapped in blankets into the trunk of their car. The way they moved, frantic and secretive, made her blood run cold. They kept looking around nervously, whispering urgently. Then they drove off into the night. Amina made a split-second decision. She'd arranged a contact, a taxi driver who could follow discreetly. She called him, and they tailed the Okonkwos to an abandoned area outside town. From a distance, Amina watched as Charles and Patricia met 2 men. Money exchanged hands. The bundle from their trunk was transferred to the other car. Amina's camera captured everything, her mind racing with terrible possibilities. Back at the house, Amina knew she had to find hard evidence. She'd learned Patricia kept her laptop in her home office. Using equipment her journalism team had secretly provided, she managed to access it. What she found made her physically sick. Emails discussing shipments. Bank accounts with massive unexplained deposits. And photos. Photos of young girls, some barely teenagers, with notes about placements and amounts of money. This wasn't a charity. This was something far more sinister. The pieces were coming together, but Amina still didn't know what happened to Chioma. Then one night, she overheard David on his phone, arguing with someone. She recorded it from the hallway. I don't care what excuses you have. You owe me money, and if you don't pay, you'll end up like that stupid maid who used to work here. A pause. Yeah, the one who couldn't mind her own business. My dad handled it. Nobody's even looking for her. Amina's hand flew to her mouth. She stumbled back to her room, her whole body shaking. Chioma wasn't in her village. Chioma was dead. And this family had killed her. She was in danger. Real danger. But she couldn't leave, not without enough evidence to bring them all down. She installed more hidden cameras, recorded conversations, documented everything. She was gathering a case that would be impossible to deny. The breaking point Charles and Patricia arguing. She'd hidden a recording device in their bedroom days earlier. Charles sounded drunk and paranoid. What if someone finds out about the girls? What if they connect Chioma back to us? Patricia's voice was ice cold. Nobody will. We paid enough to make sure that problem disappeared permanently. Stop panicking. Charles continued, his voice breaking. And Blessing. She's starting to resist. What if she tells someone? There was a long pause. Then Patricia said something that made Amina's blood freeze. Then we handle Blessing the same way. She's becoming a liability. Maybe after you win, she has an accident. It wouldn't be the first teenager to run away and disappear. They were planning to kill their own daughter. Amina contacted her editor immediately, uploaded everything to secure servers, and coordinated with a special police unit. But she needed one final piece, something that would guarantee arrest and convictions. The big campaign donor dinner was in 3 days. All of the family's powerful friends and connections would be there, witnesses who couldn't be silenced or bought. That's when she would expose everything. Those 3 days were the longest of Amina's life. She went about her duties normally, pretending she knew nothing, while the family planned their future and Blessing walked around the house like a ghost, unaware her parents were plotting her death. Finally, the night of the dinner arrived. The mansion glowed with lights. Expensive cars filled the driveway. Politicians, businessmen, traditional rulers, and journalists gathered in the dining room. Charles stood at the head of the table, smiling, confident, victory within reach. Patricia sat beside him, elegant and poised. David and Blessing stood awkwardly behind them, playing their roles. Amina served drinks, moving invisibly through the crowd. But hidden cameras she'd positioned captured every angle. Everything was ready. As dessert was being served, Amina set down her tray. She stood in the center of the room and straightened her posture. When she spoke, her voice was clear, strong, nothing like the timid whisper the family was used to. Excuse me, everyone. Before this celebration continues, there's something you all need to see. Patricia shot to her feet. Amina. What do you think you're doing? Get back to the kitchen right now. But Amina didn't move. She pulled out a small remote from her pocket. My name is Amina Zubair. I'm an investigative journalist, and for the past 3 months, I've been documenting what really happens in this household. The room went silent. Charles tried to laugh it off, but his face had gone pale. This is ridiculous. This woman is clearly disturbed. Security, remove her. But Amina activated the projector. I think everyone should see this first. The wall lit up with video footage. The first clip showed David in his room, surrounded by drugs, counting money, talking on the phone about deliveries and deals. Several guests gasped. One businessman stood up, shouting, "That's my son. My son is in that video." Charles tried to speak, but Amina cut him off. Your son is running a drug distribution operation from this house. While you campaign against drugs. The next video played automatically. More evidence of the drug operation, timestamps showing it had been happening for months. Then came something worse. Audio recording, timestamped late at night. A door opening. Blessing's voice, crying, begging. Please, Daddy, not again. I don't want to. Charles's voice responding, cold and commanding. The room erupted. Several women began crying. Men stood up in outrage. Patricia lunged toward the equipment, but security guards, who'd been coordinating with police, blocked her path. This man, Amina continued, her voice shaking with controlled rage, campaigns on protecting children. But he's been abusing his own daughter for years. Blessing collapsed, a female police officer catching her. The girl was sobbing, finally able to confirm the truth. It's true, she cried. It's all true. I was too scared to tell anyone. He said he'd kill me like he killed Chioma. The room exploded with noise, but Amina wasn't finished. She played the next set of evidence. Emails from Patricia's computer. Photos of missing girls. Bank records showing money transfers. Videos of girls being brought to the house and disappearing. Patricia Okonkwo's charity is a front. She's been trafficking children for 3 years. Selling them to wealthy predators across the country and overseas. Patricia screamed, "This is all fabricated. She's lying." But one of the traditional rulers pointed at the screen. "That girl. That's my niece. She went missing 8 months ago. We've been searching everywhere." Another person shouted, "That's the daughter of my friend. We filed a police report." The final evidence played. The audio recording of Charles and Patricia's late-night conversation. His confession about handling the Chioma problem. Patricia's cold discussion about potentially killing Blessing. Charles's admission about the body being buried. Chioma was 19 years old, Amina said, her voice breaking slightly. "She worked here before me. She discovered what this family was doing. They murdered her to keep their secrets. And they were planning to kill their own daughter next." Police, who had been positioned outside, flooded into the house. Charles tried to run but was tackled. Patricia was screaming, trying to destroy the equipment, but backup recordings had already been sent to multiple news outlets and law enforcement agencies. David pulled a knife, but officers quickly disarmed and arrested him. And Blessing finally felt safe enough to tell everything. Through her tears, she confirmed years of abuse, the trafficking operation, the murder, all of it. The trial became the biggest in the nation's history. The evidence Amina had gathered was overwhelming. More victims came forward. Chioma's body was eventually found on a property Charles owned. The charges kept mounting: human trafficking, child sexual abuse, drug trafficking, money laundering, murder. Charles received life imprisonment without parole. So did Patricia. David, despite his age, was tried as an adult and received 40 years. The judge showed no mercy. "You presented yourselves as a model family while running a criminal enterprise that destroyed countless lives. You will never see freedom again." But the impact went far beyond one family's destruction. Amina's investigation rescued dozens of trafficked children. Her evidence dismantled a network that stretched across multiple states. New laws were passed protecting domestic workers and requiring oversight of charity organizations. Political candidates faced stricter background checks. Blessing was placed in protective care with counselors to help her heal. Years later, she would become an advocate for abuse survivors, using